So before we get into the red flag symptoms, let's talk about what mottling really is. So the medical term for this is livedo reticularis, and it's found in up to 10% of newborns, even more common in premature infants. It's characterized by this fishnet, web-like, or marbled pattern to the skin, most common on the extremities, and then in lighter skinned children, it can appear pinkish, a little purplish, and in darker skinned children, it's often dark brown or dark purple. It basically happens because the newborn has an immature autonomic nervous system. And so basically the blood vessels, like the capillaries or the veins, they constrict or relax in this uneven way that leads to different colors of the skin in this marbled pattern. What are some signs that it's safe and okay and you can relax? Well, the normal finding of skin mottling is called cutis marmorata, and it has some key features that usually accompany it. So it is transient and intermittent. It doesn't happen persistently. It's usually symmetric on both sides of the body. It really doesn't itch. It shouldn't be painful. And then very importantly, it should not be associated with any infection or systemic illness. So basically, if the child is otherwise healthy and otherwise well, and it goes away when a baby is warmed up or is otherwise doing okay, then it means that it's probably a benign finding and nothing to do about it. The one thing I will note is even when it's a normal finding, it often happens in response to the cold. So if you have a baby and they're doing well and you see this, it usually means that they're chilly. So generally speaking, when you're cold, you're using more glucose, you're using more oxygen, and you're probably uncomfortable. So it's a good idea to warm that baby up anyway. Okay, but I'm an ICU doctor, and so I will say when I'm evaluating a child for critical illness, one of the key things I look for is skin mottling. So if I go to the floor, there's a kid with bronchiolitis, and I'm talking to the team, and I see a child who has mottled skin, the first thing I ask is the parents, hey, does the skin always look like this, or does it come and go pretty frequently? If they say no, then I'm just going to say I am incredibly concerned and very likely to take that kid to the intensive care unit. So the basic idea is that if skin mottling doesn't normally happen with your child and it's accompanied by any other red flags, so poor feeding, respiratory distress or trouble breathing, blue lips, persistent mottling that really doesn't go away, and then most importantly, if it's accompanied by lethargy, so a baby that just is not acting like themselves, they're not waking up, they're overly tired, that is a very scary thing to me. The rare but critical conditions that it can be associated with, first, second, and third, I'm going to say are sepsis. So sepsis is a systemic infection, and if you see skin mottling, lethargy, baby not acting like themselves, that is where my money would be. But really, any other cause of poor circulation can lead to skin mottling if the child is otherwise unhealthy and not doing well. So that means things like severe dehydration, severe hypothermia, bleeding, whether it happens after a traumatic incident or internal bleeding, and then cardiac failure, so congenital heart disease. These are all things that could cause that abnormal finding of the skin if the child otherwise seems very sick. The only other thing I'll mention here is cutis marmorata telangiectasia congenita, CMTC. This is very rare, but it's a vascular anomaly condition where a baby is born essentially with that mottling. It's persistent and doesn't go away. It's often asymmetric. You have limb abnormalities, the skin atrophies and breaks down, and basically you need to evaluate for other vascular malformations in the baby's organs. So that's it. The main takeaway to me is that if the baby is fine, otherwise healthy, growing, peeing, pooping, feeding fine, and they have mottling and it's transient and it goes away, nothing to worry about. 10% of kids will get it. It'll go away by 4 to 6 months. You're in the clear. But if the child is not fine, and we talked about some of those red flag symptoms, but especially lethargy or they're just not acting right, get that kid to see a provider as soon as possible because it can be a sign of shock, sepsis, or other types of circulatory failure. Anyway, I hope that was all helpful. If it was, please feel free to subscribe, leave a comment below or a like. All those things always help a lot, and we'll see you on the next video.